What is going on, everyone? This is Ryan with the Loth-Wolf Pack, and today we are bringing you the 9th installment of the Loth-Wolf podcast. We have not been canceled yet, fellas.
Not yet.
I am joined by the full Loth-Wolf Pack. Once again, we have Jim, we have Chris, and we have Bob, who I would like to ask. Bob, have you officially changed your last name yet?
I have not.
You have not.
Hopefully, I got to keep my cool last name, so we're still on the full Bob train.
Before we we take a deep dive into the Destiny content as we do, I would just like to congratulate Bob. The wedding was a blast from what I remember from my Heineken-induced haze. But yeah, it was a great time. Congratulations, man. So happy for you and Victoria.
Thank you.
All the best.
Yeah, it was a great time. Glad to see all you guys out there, all you hooligans. It was a blast. Best day of my life.
Yeah, it was great. Jim, how you doing tonight, man? It's I would like to announce as well, we have taken a long hiatus from the Loth-Wolf Pack, our Loth-Wolf podcast. It's been about 3 or 4 weeks. And in that time, Jim has retired and unretired. So I would like to officially welcome him back out of retirement. How you been, Jim? How's the game treating you and all that?
Oh, my God. I got death threats at the wedding. No, I did not retire.
Oh, man.
I just took a break.
Yeah, we're happy that you're playing again.
Yeah, we're happy to have you back. It was good to see you back on Wednesday.
Dude, it was just like Michael Jordan going to baseball for a little while.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
except Jim didn't film Space Jam, so
get out the game to come back stronger.
There you go.
Like it.
So in our break, a bunch of stuff has happened. We were hoping to get some spoilers. Unfortunately, we didn't pull any of those. But just kind of a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to go over some Prime results, mostly the Prime results that kind of surprised us. We're not going to really talk about the Chopper droids. That, I think, has established itself as the number one deck in the meta. Chopper droids. It won Worlds, obviously. There are still many different versions, and now people are kind of winning Primes all over the place with it and topping with it. But we're going to talk about 3 decks specifically that kind of caught everybody by surprise, and we're going to talk about them going forward. We're then going to kind of discuss kind of decks that we've been playing in our kind of the lull, and now that our Prime is over and we don't really have one until after the new year, we're kind of like mixing stuff up, going with a little bit unorthodox approach to deck building and revisiting some characters that we really haven't touched on in a long time. So we're going to discuss kind of decks that we've been dealing with or messing with over the last couple of weeks. And then finally, we're going to talk about some of the potential nerfs. I know this has been done on a lot of podcasts, potential nerfs or changes. Matt Holland has hinted that the meta is going to get shaken up by the time the next set drops, which we all assume is going to be a balance of the force. So we're kind of going to give our thoughts on what we think that might entail. And then, of course, as always, we're going to finish it off with a fantastic episode of Idiot's Array hosted by the one and only Jim Welsh. So before we take a deep dive into that stuff, I want to talk about kind of the Prime results, and we'll talk about ours that we were not in attendance for, but it was won by an Iden Versio Tobias Beckett deck. I'm interested. Chris, I'm going to start with you since you and Jim kind of touched on Iden a lot and you guys like her a lot. What did you think about this deck? Do you think it was just a great meta call, or do you think it has some legs going forward?
So before we get to the deck itself, did we ever get the name of the person who was running the deck?
I don't have the name off the top of my head. I know I saw it posted, but I forgot.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was one of the like Pastimes people or something, or I just didn't know off the top of my head who it was.
I bet you it was a Pastimes guy.
Yeah. I know. I talked to Derek, and I'm not sure if he was a local with him or not. If he was a Pastimes guy or not. I'm not 100% positive.
Well, so, I mean, I guess talking about Iden and, you and I were kind of chatting about this for like a couple minutes the last weekend at the wedding. But Iden seems like a pretty good way to slow down the droids. So, you get that die in there, and then unless they can remove both the die, if you just let that die sit in there, they can't do any of the Ewok ambush or instigate shenanigans that, really gives that deck that unmitigatable or the die that it can't be touched to boost it up with the Faithful Companion stuff. So Yeah, it seems like a pretty sweet meta call. I don't really know how it fares against, say, something like the droid support villain support deck, but obviously he was able to, or he or she was able to cruise through Swiss and then get through a top 8. So it's obviously saying something for Iden than just having two big characters with possibly some potential to burst you down pretty quickly.
Yeah, so before I get to Jim's kind of opinion on this, one of the interesting things, which is even more surprising that he did so well, there were only, so this is our prime in Roselle, Illinois. There were 32 players. 4 people were on droids, chopper droids, or no, any droid variant. I'm sorry. 4 people.
Right.
Derek was on Han droids. He's the one that won the regional last year, or the prime last year, whatever you want to call it. And then we had Brendan Devitt from the Hyperloops. He was on chopper droids, and there were 2 other players on chopper droids. So this guy had to have had a pretty either really good Swiss run or he just got really favorable matchups. But it's pretty remarkable that the deck that it seems to counter droids, there were only 4 decks there. And by the way, all 4 of those players topped. They all got top 8. So that just kind of shows the power of droids as well.
Yeah, I guess that being said, if obviously this person is a very good player, so the pilot probably helped their way through Swiss regardless of what the matchup was, right? And then when it came crunch time in the top 8, he found the matchup he was looking for and kind of leveraged that deck even more in those situations.
Yeah. So Jim, I want to focus on, actually, focus is a great word. I want to talk to you about 2 kind of cards that he had in his deck that you've kind of been tinkering with and see like if you think that they're viable. And number 1, obviously we all know it's viable, but Pulse Cannon, it's kind of been in that weird spot where looking at it, the thing looks just busted as all hell. Like it's an insane upgrade. It's like baby fist. But it really hasn't been in any of the main, even the villain droids don't run it. So it's interesting that he had that. It was doing work, obviously. And then the other card that I want to ask you about, Jim, is Focused Fire, which he had. What do you think about those includes? Do you think that they belong in all guns decks from now on? What do you think?
First, let's talk about Pulse Cannon with the red villain cards. And me and Ryan played a couple of games the other day at our local, and it seems like the options of doing something like a tactical mastery into a pulse cannon is extremely strong, or even using a card like counterintelligence to see their hand, and then knowing that you can get the pulse cannon safely resolved multiple times. Like you said, it really hasn't shown up in a lot of decks, and just from playing with it with my little Django Phasma that I'm sure I'll talk about in a minute here, it seems awesome, and it's another way to just do some damage without them being able to stop you. Problem is you have to have a deck that makes money, and Beckett can easily make $1 with his power action and then get in with the pulse cannon and have the money to resolve. And a lot of the Django options where you can put down an equipment, a 0-cost equipment to get the extra $1, and he rolls money decently well, you can easily get to have some resources to resolve that with. And then on top of that, like you said, I think Focus Fire, if you're running all guns or like 90% range damage dice, it's got to be a card that's way more involved now, because everybody went so heavy towards what's Bob's card? Pulverize. And the 2 costs of Pulverize is so limiting at times. You feel like, wow, I want to get Pulverize off because it melts an opponent's character. But the 2 cost is really, really hard to achieve at times, especially in a deck where you're trying to throw upgrades down. So Focus Fire, which lets you resolve the 2 range, increasing each of their damage by 1, is pretty strong. So I think we'll see more of that card for sure in the future, as well as people messing around with Pulse Cannon now. So
to your point with Focus Fire, I feel like the magic number right now in the meta, as the way that the game is being played, is 6. If you can do 6 damage, especially to a droid turn 1, you're in great shape turn 2, right? because you can just then chunk them with any of the character dice. 6 chunks Forlom in half. It halves basically every single major character and major threat that's being played right now, with the exception of Vader. And focused fire, instead of wasting 3 dice that are extremely valuable against droids, now you're only burning 2. So I think that's really the value of focused fire that people were kind of overlooking, was it's only one resource that theoretically Beckett just starts with innately. So you always have it online. And 2, you're 3/4ing a droid turn 1, right? And that's not even including if you're doing it off of Beckett's 3, which you're probably not unless you have a lot of money saved up. But yeah, I think focused fire, like I agree with you. I think if you're doing any guns deck, I think it's auto include right now, just for how sneaky, how strong, and just overall how versatile it can be.
I kind of learned this from Bob, and as much as it pains me to say that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, is that, excuse me, I feel like I'm about to sneeze. I learned this from Bob. Jeez, I'm going to sneeze. Hold on.
This kid just holding up the gas.
There it is.
Yeah. So
Good.
I learned this from Bob. In a deck that's extremely aggressive, your best mitigation card is killing them. And
that's what I said.
And taking dice off the table. I'm not saying other people don't say this. I'm saying Bob was specifically in my ear consistently about this. So whereas I'm used to playing a little bit more defensively and trying to, like you said back in the day, like I'd have like a million mitigation cards in my deck. Instead of doing that, finding ways to boost your damage to just, like you said, get a droid or somebody off the board is almost better than paying $1 to do that. Seems to be better than paying $1 to remove 1 dice. So it's pretty awesome how a lot of these red cards can spike damage. So red villain is extremely strong, and we've mentioned this in the past. Red villain has a shot to become like really hot with the guns because there are so many cards that increase your range damage.
I mean, so focused fire is neutral, and so is intense fire. And I used to play intense fire a lot because that increases one of your dice, and it's like it could be range, melee, or indirect by 1. And then if you can increase it by 2, if you can spot more red cards than the opponent. But I mean, focused fire is neutral as well, and like you said, like that's 2 dice increasing their values by 1. Like, and if you're in a deck that's only dealing ranged, I mean, that's why wouldn't you include it? And it's only a 1 cost. And Jim, like you're saying, like if you're going to be aggressive, kill the opponent as quickly as possible, because you're not going to be playing cat and mouse games trying to do like your Qui-Gon shields. I mean, you're trying to kill the opponent as quickly as possible, and that is your best mitigation.
Yeah.
So deck going forward, is it a meta deck? Is it a fluke win? Is it a good meta call? What do we think? I personally think this was a good meta call for the tournament. I do not foresee this. I love Beckett. I don't know if Iden is his best partner. I'm very.
Didn't you run that though? You ran Talzin, Beckett?
I have never ran Iden Versio. I've never had her on the table.
But you ran Talzin, Beckett.
Correct. Profitable. And that's, it's delicious.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I mean, if droid still reigns supreme, I mean, Iden definitely gives you some leverage there to slow them down, like I was saying before.
I agree.
So, I mean, and if touching on Pulse Cannon, maybe right now, like Jim was saying, with Beckett's ability to make some money, maybe this is one of the better Pulse Cannon decks that also just has the innate Iden thing to kind of slow droids down. So, seeing Jim use that Pulse Cannon recently, which I've kind of been dogging the Pulse Cannon, but then, lately you guys have been all about it. So it's kind of opened my eyes a little bit to it. I mean, it's like the baby fist that you can't touch, right? If it goes off, it goes off. So, and like you were saying, Ryan, the Pulse Cannon, potentially you could nuke down a whole droid with just one go of the Pulse Cannon, So, granted that's a lot of variance and get a little bit of luck involved, but the potential for it is there. So, I mean, I'm not really sure.
I was TTSing against Palermo probably 2 months ago against a Qui-Gon Jinn, and I 3-for-1 to 3-for-1 to 3-for-1 melted him off the table.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to interject one more time. It seems like whenever I play in the current meta, whether it's Afra, the 3 wide, or villain droids, non Afra. It seems like I'm on a clock. Like you need to take somebody down turn 1 or the beginning of turn 2 to have a chance against one of those decks. And a card like Pulse Cannon, like you just said, Chris, has the ability to do that with it only being 3 cost. And if you have money, it can swing a whole matchup. So whether it's Django Phasma profitable or Beckett, Iden with his power action making you $1, if you can find a way to have money, Pulse Cannon with some resolves seems like it can counter a lot of things. And I think originally people were like, well, let's go with upgrades or supports that hit multiple targets, like splash damage. So everybody was like, okay, let's go splash damage instead. Like, let me resolve a Umbaran
Right.
or something like that. And perhaps
Force wave style kind of thing.
yeah, force wave style, but perhaps that's a little too slow. Going 3-3-3 here or 2-3-2-1 or whatever it may be. Perhaps fully just rounding a character down each round. Like, okay, I'm going to burst this one, then I'm going to burst that one, and then I'm going to burst this one, and try to take the game. Might be the better strategy against these 3 wide decks.
Here's a quick question for you, and Jim and I think, are going to talk about this later. Do you think Iden's best partner, considering that, like you said, Chris, that she's probably the best right now, best combatant to the droids, do you think Tobias is the best partner for Iden? Or, Jim, you had mentioned a long time ago in one of our first episodes, Iden Django, because technically with Django you can play the bounty hunter mask and get that third dollar very easily, and you can pump out the pulse cannon as well that way. I mean,
I think Beckett is
Beckett.
I think Beckett is kind of head and shoulders better than Django right now, and I think he is better with the pulse cannon as well. That's just my opinion.
I don't know. I don't know if there's a right answer. I just think that whatever route you take it has to be a deck that generates money. So it probably doesn't matter. Like, I don't know if there's a best partner per se with Iden, but like Ryan's saying, Beckett has his advantages. Django has his advantages. I'm sure there's other people you could put her with that would also bring a lot of health to the table. Like, isn't one of those bounty hunters? They're like a 50,
Forlom, I think it's 12.
yeah. Like Forlom, like comes with a lot of health and gives you access to yellow. Like, and then you could play cards like Dead or Alive or whatnot to make money. But
you could, yeah.
I'm sure there's like ways to get a yellow-red pairing, but the Iden seems to be a really cool way to slow down the droids. So like, let's just see what we can make. But we are playing with limited time. Like you said, there could be like some type of balance of the force that just says, okay, we're done with this right now.
Okay. Moving on, we'll talk about the next one. This was a very spicy one. It won one of the Northeast regionals or primes. Yoda, new Yoda, and Bail Organa. It was an Admiral Yoda reset deck with Guardian of the Wills. He played a 2 of in that deck. What do we think about Yoda Bail? I don't know if we ever tested Yoda Bail. We've had people that were messing with like Yoda Satine and kind of the Lightsaber Mastery Fatal Blow version of that deck. What do we think about Yoda Bail Admiral? I mean, I was watching it on stream. He was playing Manton's Afra, and I mean, Yoda constantly having 6 shields was just insane to watch. Like Manton, if he had a chance, he had to chew through, I mean, like literally like 20 something health just on Yoda alone. So it was pretty absurd to watch. What do we think? Chris, I'll start with you. Do you think it's a viable deck? Again, do you think it's like a meta breaker, or do we think it was just a kind of a one-time lucky roll?
Well, funny enough, I do have a little bit of experience with the Bail thing. I tried like a month or so ago. I tried Mace Bail Admiral thing, and like you were mentioning with the guy having Guardian of the Wills in there, that does feel really good when you can get the Guardian of Wills down for free, and then in future rounds you're paying or playing the Admiral for 2, with Bale's discount and overriding the Guardian of the Wills. So that's some pretty good value. And I don't know the rest of the deck list. I haven't seen that guy's deck list, but did he have some big upgrades in there, or what did he have?
In front of me right now.
Yeah.
He was playing, I know he played a dagger. He was playing like Jedi lightsaber so he can get extra shields on Yoda.
Yep.
His whole game plan seemed predicated or like just centered around getting shields. I know he had 2 Ataru strikes and 2 become ones. That's how he actually won the tournament.
Okay.
He became 1 for 5, but getting rid of a 4 for 1 and killing,
Okay, wow.
I think, a Sentinel Messenger. So he had some surprise plays.
He kind of like
too.
tanks up a little bit and then kind of just makes a big play with all the shields to get some advantage, maybe.
It was a very opposite. Like, instead of going fast, it was like take shields for maybe the first 2 rounds, let the other dude set up, and then sneak in one like 9,
play,
or just an Admiral reset turn. Like the second or the third game, he had both Admirals on Yoda, and it was just obscene.
Yeah. I mean, what the Mace Bale deck I played was not good at all. Like, it was really bad. But I will say that whole thing with Bale and, like I said, the Guardian of the Wills discount, plus you are in command now, plus just overwriting the Guardian with Bale's discount. I mean, that's a ton of value if your cards come in the right order. So I can definitely see how something like that could do pretty well if the guy's running really well and is just a good player overall. But you can't, regardless of what character it's on, you can't overlook Admiral Reset.
Admiral's another one. It's very close to Pulse Cannon in my eyes. Like, looking at it, it's good. You stare at it, you're like, this thing is busted, and then it just hasn't won anything. And no question. I mean, we had Admiral Palp make a couple runs at Worlds, and then at I think it was Gen Con, maybe Nova, one of the two. I think it was the same guy actually that finished in the top 4 of each tournament. And so it's definitely got legs. It just hasn't had that consistency like Droids has. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And so it's an interesting. I think it's a tough meta right now to be an upgrade. I think that's why we don't see Pulse Cannon or Admiral as hard, because there's so much spot removal in the meta right now, whether it's automated defense, near miss, Forsaken, anything like that. It just kills those upgrades that you're relying on.
Yeah. I will also say with playing Bale, the special is like surprisingly, okay against, Forlom droid decks and the hero droid decks, because you have some sort of soft interaction with them, at the least if you hit the special, because their whole team is a matching subtype. So, one play off of that, if you get lucky, can negate their whole turn.
And going off of that, he actually, so it doesn't say character subtype, it says subtype. So he had like an Admiral on a 3 focus and Bale on a special, and he resolved it calling title, flip to the special, and special change into a reset.
Oh, wow.
So it's like that play exists, which I saw it and I was like, holy hell. Like, I didn't see that coming. And so that's something to be aware of, is that you can special chain into an Admiral special off of a Bale special.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, it re-rolls, right?
It re-rolls, and then you get to auto-focus it to whatever you want. And so you just continue resolving specials after the re-roll.
Ooh, that's really good. I didn't even. Well, that's something I definitely didn't think about when I was playing.
It's spicy. Yeah, same. It's crazy.
I had a vehicle deck, and I would do that. I would call vehicle, and then roll it, and then turn it to whatever side. So it is strong.
Touch that one, Jim.
Oh my god!
Look at this kid. Look at this guy.
His special is kind of hard to find, though. It's a 1-of.
Yeah, for sure.
I roll 1-ofs all the time, man. 1 out of 6. That was my nickname in college. All right, so moving on from Yoda Bale, I like this deck better than I like Iden Beckett, and that's coming a lot because I love Beckett, but I do think this deck is more viable just because this has more shenanigans in it, whether it's the shields and the Atarus and the become ones and the Admiral resets and all that crap. This has more tricks, I think, than Iden Beckett.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same kind of thing. Like, this deck seems like you can do a bunch of crazy stuff and it'd just be fun to play regardless, win or lose,
Yeah, I would like to give this deck a try after my Order 66 Nightmare deck that I'm going to bust out this week.
Can't wait.
Moving on. Last deck, we have Big Daddy Vader took down a 12-person Las Vegas Prime. Do we think yellow Big Daddy Vader, he's making some splashes everywhere else too. Can we say Vader is back? Do we have confirmation?
I wouldn't say he's back, but he's definitely never going to go away. So
You never sleep on him.
I guess it just depends on how many people decide to play it, right? Like 12 people kind of take it with a grain of salt, but the good players that are going to primes, how many of them at the current moment are going to choose to play Vader over one of the quote unquote top established decks?
Here is two things that I'll say about Vader, and maybe Jim, you can come in on this. I think, and this is no offense to anybody listening, this is an opinion of mine. I think that people play Vader, or the people that we've seen play Vader, not with the exception of like Mark, we really haven't ran into a Vader that is like extremely skilled. I think Vader is a high skill cap deck, and I think he gets overlooked because people are just like, oh, I could just roll 8 natural and just win the game. But I think there's a lot of skill that goes into that. And I think if you get a good pilot, I think Vader becomes even more dangerous. And I will say too, like you guys said, you always have to be aware of it. I think Bob, you said it. Vader can just roll you off the table regardless of anything, any game plan that you have set up. And especially with a Delve Fist package too, he can just turn 1, turn 2, just roll you absolutely off the table and you can't respond, which I think if you're going to a higher, like a prime or anything higher, that's a terrifying prospect.
Touching on how with Delve Fist, it kind of gives him something really scary to do with that extra money if he has that $2 side, and as we've all seen from the beginning of Vader, if I don't know if the guy was playing Fear and Dead Men, but against 3 wide droids, hero and villain, that is 12 damage is 12 damage, or 9 damage is 9 damage. So nothing to sleep on.
Yeah, I'm looking at his list right now, and he does have like Delve. He's got Vader's Fist. He's got Fear and Dead Men. He's got
for a price.
He's got Dead or Alive in there too, which is kind of spicy. Get some extra money. He does have 1 pulse cannon, which is pretty cool as well. I mean, he's got multiple variations of winning. It's either he gets the fist out the natural way, he delves it out. He can kill you with just his innate ability, and then Fear and Dead Men. He can pulse cannon Darth Vader's lightsaber. He's got the dark saber in there as well. I mean, he's got a lot of spice in this deck, and I mean, he's got the good removal too if he needs it. So I think it's a very cool. You know what card he has that makes my heart just beat extra?
I Perform Violence.
He's got I Perform Violence in there, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man,
so,
I played it on Jim on Wednesday, just doing like an exhibition game, and me and him were both like, God, I can't believe I just played that card.
It's a great card.
Alrighty, moving on. Do you guys want to do our possible nerfs, things we'd like to see, or do we want to talk about our little janky decks before? Which one do we want to do first?
Why don't we just touch on the decks real quick, and then we'll do the nerfs, and then.
All right, first one up is the out of retirement deck. Jim, let's run us through the deck that you've been kind of tinkering with and what you think, or how's it been performing, all that good stuff.
Okay, so it's not like I invented this. I just tweaked on stuff.
It's a brand new thing that you created.
The one guy, discard a reroll guy, Chip, that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was messing with Django Phasma, and then somebody at Worlds did like a top 64 with it. And Django's always been a character that I've enjoyed playing, and so when I decided to come out of retirement, I was like, well, I'm going to play with somebody that I have fun with, but who's also decently good, so I don't get rolled off the table. And so the Django Phasma profitable, but I went a little different route with it after seeing the results of that Roselle Prime, and I went the pulse cannon route and the focus fire, and then a lot of other normal cards that you'd see in a heavy gun deck. So like 2 A300s, 2 armored plates, 2 bounty hunter masks because you want to make that free $1, 2 quick draw holsters because you want to make the free $1, then 2 pulse cannons, 2 riot shields, 2 conscript, and 2 mega blasters. And then the typical removal package that you'd see is like a sinister piece, electromagnetic pulse, just because droids are everywhere, route. But I mean, there's tons of things you can swap in and out for removal, really, to be honest. Basically, turn 1, you want to drop a bounty hunter mask. So you're starting with $4, and then you drop the pulse cannon. Hopefully you have a counterintelligence. You peek at their hand. You get rid of their best removal card. You roll in. You do your guns, and then you pulse cannon someone to death, and then you rinse and repeat. So it's it was a lot of fun. I played it against your Rex deck, and at the local, and the only loss I had was to Afra. But I kind of had a couple bad beats for me in that game. But it is what it is. So it's fun to play.
How was the route for you?
So actually against Ryan, it came in clutch. I by later in the round, you are going to have a decent amount of dice when you're rolling out conscript squads, and Django coming in with like the pulse cannon die and whatever else you have out there. I was able to remove more than one dice probably a few times. I think it's in there just as a big time you have to have one card that you can
emergency button type thing. Yeah.
Where you can
it's really one of the only like multi-die removals that like villain, or I guess not villain, but you don't want to play best defense. So it's kind of like route.
And if you have mega blasters in your deck or something where you're going to have a lot of dice in your pool, including it seems to be like an obvious call, but I mean it could be your only mitigation card, and you could be behind in the sequence and it's just dead. But for the most part, I took the approach of don't go too removal heavy, go with kill with the focus fire and the pulse cannon, and it seemed to work just fine. So I think Chris, you said you'll post the list.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to comment, the one thing I was considering was, in all of the games I used, I never put mega blasters down once. I was always looking and mulliganing for a pulse cannon and a 0 cost, and I would get it decently enough. And then the deck makes so much money, especially starting with profitable, that I felt like if you wanted to really change some things up, you could get rid of Mega Blaster Troopers and go with two hired muscles, because there are times when you'll have money and you'll be like, wow, the damage sides on the hired muscle are great, and then okay, the discard side's good and the shields could be useful. So I thought about maybe scrapping Mega Blasters for 2 hireds, and then maybe you could then flex one route out and then put something else in. But but Ryan was trying to say like, no, you want Mega Blasters in there. But it's just something I'd have to tinker with and see what the feel is.
Yeah.
The only reason I would say keep the megas in is because you ran really hot against me, especially where you had pulse cannon every single turn 1 and you had the combo. You're going to want megas on times where that doesn't happen. So I think it's just a solid, obviously, if that's not your number 1 play, megas is just so strong. And I think it's something that you're not going to want to take out.
Yeah, you're probably right. So I'm just saying, if I was to tinker and try something different for a game or two, that's probably what it would be. And I'm definitely open for anybody's feedback who listens, because like they said, I was retired for a while. This deck caught my eye, felt like trying it. So open for suggestions.
Cool.
All right, moving on. Chris, I am staring at a pile of what looks like trash, and I would like you to try to kind of explain to me what I'm staring at right now and
It's definitely not far from that. So
yeah,
we tried Built to Last, Plo Koon, Emphas Nest Marauder, and Youngling. So the inspiration for this idea was kind of from I think Nick Cuenca posted something about a Youngling deck on the Hyperloops he was testing for Worlds, but it didn't work out. Him or Mike Gem, I can't remember.
It was with Ayla, right? I think it was Cuenca.
Yeah, it was like Ayla, Youngling, something else. I can't remember top of my head. But so anyways, I was thinking about, I've always liked Built to Last, so I kind of just went in the tank a little bit, and this is the character pairing I ended up with, and with the Emphasis Marauder, I put in the Palpatine's lightsaber just to give another 2-cost unique. But so, on the screen I'll have the picture of the deck list. So this deck is just not very good, unfortunately. You're just so slow to get set up, and then like kind of how we alluded to before, talking about just the meta and the primes. If you're not like trying to immediately kill someone against like a top tier deck, you're just done. You can't do anything. So, lucky for me, I was able to shield up the Youngling a couple times, because a lot of the times you don't win the roll with 3 die with the Marauder and Plo Koon. So they would take their Theed or whatever, which obviously isn't great for me, but I get to shield up the Youngling and put it at 6 health. So it gives me maybe 2 rounds of getting double discount from Youngling and Plo Koon. But there just aren't enough high impact dice out there character wise to get like a fast start. And you kind of just fall behind pretty quickly, and it wasn't super easy to catch up. So it's definitely fun though. Like I really like Built to Last and then reducing the cost, with the Youngling. It's fun, but you have to have 2 upgrades in your hand every round to really make it worthwhile. And there was one round 2 where I had no upgrades, and you just kind of lose.
Scoop. Yeah.
It's pretty much just over. But it's really fun. It's definitely a cool deck. But as far as it being viable, 100% not. But
is Youngling just ass, or is he like, can we make him good, or is he just like?
So it's funny you mentioned that, because this brings me to something that he's cool. He's really cool. I was wondering if they'll ever tinker with the idea of, just as an example with the Youngling, make him 3.5 points, 3.5
half points.
Because yeah. So I know that's really
like do math. Why are we doing this?
That's never going to happen. But just because it gives you a 1 point discount on the second one. So the first one's still going to cost you 4 points, but if you want to play 2, it's going to cost you 7. So just kind of thinking about potential for that, but I don't really think they would ever do that. But I don't know why that popped in my head, but
kind of a cool
Youngling is definitely cool, but it feels really bad though. Like you think it's going to be cool, and then you play like the 1 upgrade on him, and then you roll it in, and it's just like,
Yeah, and immediately gets Forsaken.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You just roll right into the Forsaken. So, but it's definitely cool. You need Built to Last though with Youngling, I think. Otherwise, it's complete garbage.
100% Built to Last. Do you think that the Marauder was a good pick, like as another partner?
Dude, so good question. If you look at the event package, that is the reason for yellow, more or less.
I see that. I get that because I saw, with the Palp Saber, that's your villain card that you chose. I was just wondering.
But the other part, there aren't, for this exact lineup, there aren't a lot of good partners. I think he's 8 points, the Marauder. So it's either like you play one of the Jobber blue non-uniques or like bust, basically. So
I was thinking, what if you included 2 more Younglings?
Oh, right.
The cost of all your upgrades by 3 then.
That's a good point. It is kind of awkward though, because Built to Last only works once. So that's why I have in there, I have the Jedi Saber and the Neimon Mastery, because you need to have a couple upgrades that aren't unique that you can. So like the first time you use the discount, you're also going to Built to Last on the unique. But then the second time you do it, you're going to lose a little bit of a dollar value if you do it on a unique, if it's a 3 cost or a 2 cost. So I don't know if that's exactly correct or not, but does that make sense of what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, but yeah. So what was the character, Bob? Oh, no, 2 more Younglings.
I was thinking, what if you did 2 more Younglings, and then so you got 3 Younglings, and then the Plo Koon.
Sure. Yeah, the main, like I said, the main thing with yellow is just easy pickings, electroshock, flee the scene.
Absolutely,
Scruffy. That was the main.
I'm with you.
Yeah. But fun deck, definitely not great, but it was fun, and I went 1-2, I think. Well, I beat Mark, but he was playing Witches, so that doesn't count. But so
Witches.
He was playing the profitable Witches deck, and I just it was not good, but a fun game. But that's my deck. So Ryan, what do you got for? What did you play last week?
I played the deck that put me on the map in the Destiny world. I revisited an old friend of mine, Mr. Captain Rex, the clone captain himself. And I kind of updated a little bit to my goal with this deck was to make it as much like droids as I could without being droids. So I
Mhm.
played Rex, Elite Rex, Clone Trooper, and then one die Satine. We played on Bendu's Lair. Before I settled on Bendu's, I was actually playing on Occupied City, which was kind of a smokescreen because I wanted to take the shields because with Rex, you just get the battlefield anyway. Um, I think Bendu's slowed me down a little bit too much. It did come in clutch with some resource rolls and some 2 shields. So I don't know going forward. I'm not going to play this a lot. I'll probably just kind of bust it out and for funsies every once in a while. I got to play Rex one last time before he gets to ride off into the sunset. But some notable cards in here. I really liked the Rex's Blaster. I ran 2 of. Obviously, it's an auto include with Rex, but it's just so fun when you get a Rex's Blaster on Rex and then a Rex's Blaster on Clone, and then you instigate
Oh,
or you
yeah.
play like some sort of action sheet, and you get to roll in Rex, take the battlefield, roll in Clone, get a reroll, roll in Satine, get a reroll, and then resolve.
Mhm.
And it just
Mhm.
that's like what the shenanigans like the droid shenanigans. Plus, if you have a
Right.
conscript squad or 2 on I play with 2 conscript squads as well. So I want to say like in testing on TTS or something, I rolled in and it was like 11 range damage that I got to resolve without them being able to touch it. And then it
That's
combos
pretty
well when
awesome.
you have like flee the scene or hasty, and you got some really good blowout control as well. So great deck. It's really fun. I would say it's probably just below tier 1.5. It's probably tier 2. It is really fun though. And
Mhm.
like I said, I'm glad that in like my piece, I can retire Rex, and he is still a top character. Like I kind of look at him as. I only lost to Jim pulse cannoning my ass off the table, which was a good time. But yeah, I was 2-1, and yeah, it's fun. I don't think it's not gonna break anything, but it was definitely cool to get to the table again.
Yeah, that's cool. It's definitely a cool deck and a different take on you know, the Rex splashing the Satine is pretty cool for the yellow cheat stuff.
Yeah, yellow cheats and then the rerolls.
Yeah, good stuff.
Alrighty. So before we get to the idiots array, we idiots are going to talk about some of the balance of the force or changes that we would like to see. We know something is coming. We don't know what. At this point, it's a lot of speculation. Um, so if we could, let's touch on one card or one like genre of cards or group of cards that we would like to see hit, and then what do you think a good change will be? Bob, you didn't get to really talk because you didn't play on Wednesday. So you're going to kick us off with the balance of the force. What card or group of cards do you think are going to get hit? And what's like your suggested hit?
So I think the elephant in the room, obvious pick here, and I apologize if I'm going to steal your guys, is Delve. I think Delve. I know it's been there for multiple sets, and I know that Delve Fist has always been a thing, despite what some people may say that they invented it. It's been there for a while. Delve, I think, is an issue right now because we're seeing like it's just showing up in a bunch of decks. There's the Afra variations of the Grievous Messenger. There's the Forlom, like the Villain Droids deck. I mean, we just talked about the Vader Greedo deck, even including it, and they're not even a support deck. I mean, it's like a why wouldn't you include that card in your deck just to get the fist out? And I think being able to pay 3, I mean, 3 is very easy to get to as
It's
opposed
ridiculous.
to 6 and 5 and sometimes even 4. But I mean, to get the most value, you want to do it on something that's a 5 or a 6 cost, i.e., planetary. So I think if they changed Delve, that would make things a little bit more fair. Let's say that the support comes in exhausted that turn, or it can only be used on yellow supports. That would take away the fist and planetary delvings. You'd really only be able to delve in at that point, like
Pirate
Pirate
Speeder
Speeder Tank, or like maybe the Shadowcaster. But that's 4 as well, so you're really not getting that much value. Um,
Mhm.
I think those are 2 fair uh, nerfs to the delve card because I think we're seeing that it's starting to take over at an alarming rate, and I think that's probably a good place to start for them to change up. I don't think it needs to go on a restricted list. I think they just need to change the wording of it to say either the support comes in exhausted or it can only be used on yellow. And we've seen them do that for other nerfs in the past. So
I really like that yellow. I think that's probably like when you look at cards, and this is especially true for like I would say Legacies is probably the last set that you can really do this. But when you look at cards, you look at them and say, this is how it was intended to be made. How did anyone pass this on as if it was like it's clearly an Afra card, right?
right.
It's clearly she's on it. It's an indirect, so it's so good with her. So they probably intended it for like a pirate speeder tank or even like a hailfire droid, even though that's
Hailfire
insane. That's stupid. I mean, but whatever. But then they make Vader's fist and like they're just like, yeah, this is fine. No one will know this combo. This is okay. So I do really like that yellow suggestion, Bob.
Thanks. Well, they did that with Watt too. I mean, they made him only red supports, which
Yeah.
hurt a lot of people, a lot of decks. So I think it'll be a fair change to it.
All right, Chris. Unless anybody else wants to comment on Delve, does anybody want to pipe in? Jim, you got anything to say?
No,
Good
you
take,
guys
Bob.
hit the nail
I like
on the
that
head.
idea.
Yeah, hot takes.
Thanks.
All right, Chris. Let's go to you. What do you think? What do you think's next on the RRG list?
I kind of have a couple things I'd like to touch on. Looking at the top, yeah, I know, right? So hang on. Looking at the top list from the iRebel page, that Amanda does an insane work putting all these numbers up here.
Yeah, she does.
Besides droids and then some sort of Grievous deck at the top, there are a lot of things that have won, right? So a lot of different types of decks that have won besides just the elephants in the room that are chopper droids or the villain droid support. So I think looking at those two decks in particular, I think one thing that could really help the slowing down both of those droid decks is, number one, errataing Faithful Companions to just take off spotting the R2D2 and C3PO and just make it say, you may exhaust this plot and spend a resource to do it again.
This is mine, so I'm going to weigh in on this too, and you're finished.
Gotcha. So I think that would just, again, like how they kind of did it with not letting you play Droids Day Out and then bumping 3PO up to take a die away, like taking the die away is a little bit bigger of a deal probably. Not to say Droids Day Out wasn't a huge card for that deck. It definitely was. But right now, I think the deck itself, it's beatable. But I think getting Faithful for free, if they took that away, I think that would just bring it down just one more notch to kind of make it a little bit more even across the board. So, Ryan, you want to jump in on that before I kind of keep going here?
Yeah, so I think we've discussed this before, and I know I'm going to take a really aggressive call here. I like your decision, or I like your suggested thing. I don't think they're going to want droids to dominate the meta. And again, for 2 metas in a row, I think they're going to want these covert mission cards to make an impact. And as it stands, I don't really see much that they're going to be able to create. And I have another one, and we'll talk about it when I get to my turn, about how this card limits covert missions. But I don't think they want droids to dominate again. So if it was up to me, I would make Faithful Companions have an increase the plot cost by 10. Just absolutely get rid of it. And I don't think it should exist. Let C3PO and R2 be a thing. Don't touch them again. Don't touch Chopper. No more increases or anything like that. But I think if you got rid of Faithful Companions, not only that deck's probably unplayable because of such a low health pool, but I think that's what they want. I'm not saying make it a 12-point plot, but
right.
Well, I think if you just get rid of that plot, that's the desired result, right? I think they should just nuke the deck. It had its time. It's still having its time. It's going to win some more primes probably in the coming weeks before the actual RRG, but get rid of it.
Yeah, I was thinking about if they want to still have it be a deck, like you said, if they put Faithful at 3 points, it's basically done. Like there's no possible combination that would be worthwhile for 3 points of Faithful, and then you can't do 4 die anything. I don't think, with the Faithful Companions.
Right.
I was thinking if they did the Faithful thing where they make you spend $1, and then let's say they errata Ewok Ambush to also cost $1 instead of 0. I think like I said, obviously it's the best deck right now, but it's not like it's winning, 50% of the tournaments. 20% is pretty high, but it's not like it's a ridiculously skewed thing. So
Twenty
I think
percent is pretty high in a dice game. Like I
well,
think
I
twenty
mean, but
percent.
also we've talked about this too, where like it's at our prime, for example, Derek and I forget his name. I'm sorry, the other Hyperloops guy.
Biggie.
Yes, so they are both playing droids, and it's no coincidence that they're the ones that are winning. Same with Joe, right? I mean,
Right.
the deck is obviously one part of it, but then, as we all know, more of it is with who's playing the deck
Correct.
than not. So good players are playing the best deck, and they're winning. So that should probably be how it is. But I think the deck itself, the interaction with Faithful Companion is just a little bit too strong. So I'd like to see them take a more of a hesitant approach now with more primes coming, and we still have 2 months before covert missions. Maybe just take a little bit of a bump down, see if that helps it and changes it a little bit, and see how the next month or so of prime results come in. But that's just me as
I
far
feel
as
that.
hero droids. And if I could go on to my next thing, which is Sentinel Messenger. So
Hate him.
Don't touch my blue
hate
boy.
it.
Don't touch
I
my blue.
Hate it.
with Sentinel Messenger being in both of the Grievous decks, whether it's Afra or Forlob, both of these decks are very good, and they include, now a lot of the Afra decks have including the Delve package as well, as we've seen. For kind of like what they did to Snoke and Thrawn, I think if they bump up Messenger to 9 points, the deck itself is still there. You can still do the whole Delve nonsense, but force them to play Bitter Rivalry and force them to take a little bit of a hit. And again, don't take away the entire thing, but just bring it down just a touch. Like have them play with 2 less health and give the opponent a card. And then compounding on that is give Theed Royal Palace a 1 point cost and don't allow them to play Theed. And I think that would really slow that deck down and bring it back down a little bit. And Theed in general, I think should be a point. I don't think that should be 0 anymore. I think we've all seen the ubiquity of Theed. I think that would really open up the metagame as far as battlefields are concerned, because everyone plays Theed regardless, except for maybe a couple of the droid decks that play, what's it called?
Endus.
Bendu, or Vader plays Fighting Pit. But, beyond that, it's like, you're going to play Theed.
Battlefield a point cost.
Say that
Or
again,
just-
Jim? Sorry.
Just get rid of it.
You're suggesting to give a battlefield a point cost, right?
Yes, correct.
That's
Give
really
give Theed a point. Like, I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know about that, because then if you don't get it, then you're to
Remember when Feed was not remove a die?
Yeah, that's kind of busted.
It was like Droid's Day Out level of busted, where you just do. It's like power action, get $1, and if you spot a neutral, just do more stuff.
I mean, I don't really. I know they don't have battlefields with point values right now, but if they have a battlefield that's like really good, why not
design
make it cost a
for
point
sure.
or two? You know,
For sure.
But I don't think they should kill the Delve thing. Like, we've all played games where you have the Delve fist, and obviously you do the whole thing. We've also all played games where you have Delve in your hand and you don't have the thing you want to Delve. So
Right.
there's definitely some variance to that card. It just has a really, really, really high ceiling that makes you feel really bad when you're playing against it. So I think, like I said, just make them play Bitter Rivalry by bumping up Messenger a point and then take away Theed. And I think a lot of these other decks now that have one win across the board, it opens up that whole like tier 1.5 to really compete with the established 1.0 at the moment.
Yeah.
Messenger having a 2 melee side is crazy.
Chris, coming from an Afra player, I think the Messenger spike would be really spicy. It would put everyone back to the drawing boards, having to try and find the best pairing for Afra and the best pairing for Grievous.
Well,
I think that would be
right.
really cool.
Well, like I said, it's still there. You just have to play Bitter Rivalry. And
Well, yeah, you could do it, but that was the same thing with the Snoke Afra battle droid deck. Like you had to play Bitter
Right.
Rivalry then, and people tried to do it. I tried to do it, and it just
Right.
didn't do as well. So then you have to go back to the drawing board and try and find the
Oh,
right.
I see. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
But no, I think it's really cool.
So this is a card that I want to see hit, not because I think it's busted, but because I think it limits everything that the next sets are going to have, and it limits the big ability or whatever you want to call it in the next set, which is piloting, and that's Desperate Measures. I think Desperate Measures limits design space to almost a screeching halt. I understand supports are a problem. Okay. That's if you're talking to purists like Jim, support destiny is not pure destiny. It's the upgrades. That's the destiny that we want to play. But if we want to be honest with ourselves, besides maybe one or two decks, this is a support game right now. It's just how we are. Desperate Measures aims to quell that. So I have two different suggestions for Desperate Measures. Number one, make it neutral. It's the first time that it's ever happened. Nobody has ever done that before. But I think if you make it neutral and if you give heroes away, kind of put them on a fair field, right? Right now, they have no way of dealing with any big support like the Fist or anything like that, unless they hit it early with like a Mill or a Scruffy or something like that. That's it. So I think if you make it neutral and give that card to both factions, I think that's probably the most fair thing you can do. Otherwise, the other suggestion that I have is have them have to pay the resources. It's almost like a dismantle, pay resources and take the indirect at the same time. So that way it's not just a zero cost, because like next set, everyone's going to want to play piloting, whether it's Poe, whether it's the Ghost, whether it's like all those new characters, the new Boba and the Slave One, all those things seem so awesome. And yet you're just going to get Desperate Measured immediately. And it's such a feel bad, like, especially at the beginning when everyone's like, we're going to have locals and say, hey, no one be an asshole and play Desperate Measures because I really want to get the Ghost on the table. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's interesting. You're suggesting both a way to make it more accessible to everyone, which I would deem as a good thing. And then you're also suggesting an option to make it more like, I guess, a negative to play it. So I guess you're proposing a positive to play it as well as a negative to play it, with having to pay the resources equal to the cost of the support. So, because I was worried you were going to go on the whole hate Desperate Measures bandwagon, but
no, I don't hate it.
I actually think that's really cool that you're now making it open to everyone. I really like that, because I do think that supports are going to take over like once the next set comes out. And I think I've been always a proponent, like Desperate Measures is like a nuts card, and I know we haven't seen it played, but here and then I've just played on the last time I played 2 weeks ago. I played against Eric, shout out Eric, and he was playing Shadowcaster, and I got Shadowcastered off the table like round 2. So, I mean, and I was kicking my butt for not putting Desperate Measures in at that time. And again, like, that's a meta call, but I think it's cool that you propose both a good change to it as well as a bad change to it. If I'm phrasing,
I don't want to nuke it, because I think it's a necessary card. I think it's a good card. I think it's a card that's kind of basically my suggestion is because I don't want it to ruin all the cool stuff in the next set. And I think that it could, I mean, probe and counterintelligence and all that stuff, you can play around it for sure, but it's just one of those that might limit design space to the point where maybe a little bit of a change, maybe nudge it in the neutral direction. That's actually my preferred, is let everyone use it, not just villains. But I don't know.
I think that'd be cool. And even if you made it like a point cost, like a $1 or a $2, I think that would be fair as well. Like, you have to pay for it and you take indirect. That seems fair enough.
Right. All righty.
I like that, Ryan. That's pretty good.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I definitely think that it being villain is kind of weird. Like, when it's just a general hate card, like, I think, like you said, I think that should be neutral,
And the name of the card is very hero. Like, the heroes are desperate. Like, the villains are never like desperate. They're always like in control of the situation. The heroes are the ones that are like, oh, we got to do something bonkers to stay alive.
Yeah, right.
So, it doesn't fit.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for your favorite game show, Idiot Array. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Jim Welsh.
Man, these intros are getting better and better. So here's what we're going to do today. I'll tell you the color and the faction. And I'm just going to read the die sides off, and you're going to have to tell me which character it is.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
But is it character or upgrades?
Characters only. So, but I will tell you the faction and the color. So it won't be like...
Are we doing infinite or just trilogy?
Because there are just standard, and because there are characters that have the same die sides, so that's why I have to tell you the faction and the color. So the order today
Gotcha.
is going to go Ryan, Chris, Bob. And so we'll start with Ryan. Ryan, your first is a blue hero card. The die side reads.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I'm used to that.
The die side reads, and I will always start with the first side all the way down to the sixth side.
Okay.
Die side reads 1 stick plus 2 stick, 1 shield, 2 shield, resource blank.
1 shield, 2 shields, resource blank.
1 stick plus 2 stick, 1 shield, 2 shield, resource blank.
Barris.
It is not Barris, but that's a great guess. There's not going to be any stealing this round because there are so many characters to do. So I will just give you the answer. I was looking at the Jedi Temple Guard.
Oh, of course.
Ooh.
Oh, the two shield. Damn. I know Barris has a +2. That's what I got tripped up on.
All right.
Yeah,
Next is Chris. Chris, this is a red hero card. The die side reads as follows. 1 gun, plus 2 gun, 1 focus, 1 shield, blank.
I think this is the Naboo Palace Guard.
And you are correct.
Whoa.
Bingo.
Nice.
Palace Guard. So following suit, Bob, we are now on to Yellow Hero.
Okay.
The die side reads 2 range, 2 indirect, 1 discard, 1 resource, plus 1 modifier resource side. Blank.
Ooh.
It's hero. Sorry, yellow.
2 range, 2 indirect, 1 discard, 1 resource, plus 1 resource, blank.
Is that
+1
Cassian?
reach?
Is that who?
Cassian?
No.
It is not Cassian. The answer I was looking for was the Trusted Informant.
Of course.
Man,
of
I
course.
didn't know that.
Of
Why
course,
should
yeah.
you? Why should you have known that?
He should
I've
know
been
that.
trying to make
He
that
likes that.
Trusted
He likes that.
for a while.
He likes that card.
No one should know that.
She's a scoundrel.
Okay.
Who cares?
Well,
She could be a Sith.
All right, moving on now. Back to Ryan. Ryan, I'm looking at a villain blue card. The die side reads 1 indirect, 2 indirect, 1 focus, 1 resource, special, blank.
One indirect, 2 indirect.
1 focus, $1, special, blank.
Is it Dark Advisor?
It is the Dark Advisor. Nice.
Ooh, very
That's
nice.
very nice.
Jesus.
Mena, going into
Yeah.
red villain territory here.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to have you go with 1 range, plus 2 range, 1 indirect, 2 indirect, resource, blank.
Red villain.
Red villain. 1 range, plus 2 range, 1 indirect, 2 indirect, resource, blank.
Super battle droid.
Yeah.
It is
Nice call.
Super Battle Droid. That's a good.
Good job.
Okay, Bob, you're getting the yellow villain card.
Of course.
Okay. Bob, whose die side is this? 2 range, 2 indirect, 1 disrupt, $1, special, blank.
2 range, 2 indirect, disrupt, dollar, special.
Blank.
I'm gonna guess. I'm trying to think of like a generic yellow villain character right now. Is it? Sorry, one more time.
Okay.
2 range, 2 indirect.
2 indirect, disrupt, $, special, blank.
Clock.
I'm totally blanking. I've been out of the game.
You could say no idea.
I mean, I'll guess. Django. I know it's not Django. He doesn't have a special. I don't know.
Second squeeze, boy.
It is Saboba.
Oh, I would have said Val. I would have been. That's.
Saboba.
What's his special?
The special. Whoa. Val actually has the same die, Ryan.
Oh, so I was right.
Oh.
Oh, no, she does not have the same die. She has a discard where he has an indirect. I mean, he has a disrupt. Very,
Stupid.
very close.
Close.
Very close. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to Ryan. This time we'll go with a different color. I'll let you pick. Ryan, you tell me the color.
Yellow villain.
All right, yellow villain. Die side reads: 1 gun, 1 disrupt, 1 discard, 1 resource, special.
What?
1 gun, 1 disrupt, 1 discard, resource, special, blank.
Wow.
Man, what the? It's got to be like one of those broke starter cards, right? Like this is not a real thing. Rebel Trader.
This is the Corin Tracker.
Come on, Ryan. What the hell?
The Corin Tracker.
Can't get that one? Jeez, what a
Anna,
noob.
I'll let you
I'm
pick.
bad.
Yellow hero.
Ooh, yellow hero. That's spicy.
Yeah.
Okay, yellow hero. All right, who is this? 2 gun,
hmm
2 for 1 gun, discard, resource, plus 1 resource, blank.
I think this is Han Solo from the starter deck.
That is correct.
What's his subtitle?
His subtitle is The Savvy Smuggler.
Savvy Smuggler.
Oh, Meta, you're a beast at this, bro.
Dude, I'm on fire.
Doing it.
Dude, he's gonna win his first Idiots Array title.
I need one. I need one,
All
boys.
right, Bob, you choose.
Blue hero.
Whoa,
Boo.
come my way.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, Bob. 1 melee, 2 for 1 melee, 1 shield, 1 resource, special, blank. 1 melee, 2 for 1 melee, 1 shield, 1 resource, special, blank.
Ooh.
I'm thinking. Ooh.
You said this is Blue Hero?
Yes.
What's that? Barris?
It is not Barris. Wow,
Does she have a special?
she does not.
No.
No, I was like,
I was looking
Yeah, okay.
for the Jedi Sentinel.
gosh darn it.
The Jedi.
Yeah.
Okay, we will. Well, Mena's got 3, Ryan's got 1, Bob's got 0. So, just for fun, it looks like Mena's going to lock down the title. But just for fun, we'll go one more round each. I kind of like that you guys are choosing. So, Ryan, go ahead.
All right.
Red Hero.
Ooh, red hero. Okay. We're going to go with 2 range, 1 focus, 1 shield, $1, blank.
2 range, 1 focus, 1 shield, $1. Is that my boy? Oh no, it's not. No. 2 range,
1 focus,
1 focus.
1 shield, $1, blank.
Yeah, who has that? I have no idea.
I don't even know.
Is it? It's not Cody. I don't know. Poe Dameron.
I was looking for Fen Rao.
Oh,
Oh,
jeez.
he's hitting me with all these like starter decks.
No, Fen Rao's not
Oh,
neutral. Chris, you're on fire. You
Yeah.
call it.
I don't think I've done red villain, so give me one of those.
Redville. No, you did. It was Super Battle Droid.
Oh, yeah.
You have not done Blue Villain.
All right, do that one then. Blue villain.
Okay, Blue Villain. Let's go with 1 range, 2 range, 1 focus, 1 resource, special, blank.
I believe this is Dark Mystic.
That is correct.
Shut up. What?
Dude, this kid's a beast.
Oh, man.
All right, Bob, to get on the board. Come on, Bob.
Dark Mystic.
Can I go?
What the-
Can I go
it's like
gray? Can I go
Nautilus.
gray neutral?
Can you go gray
Yeah.
neutral? Sure, let me read the Claudite for you.
Well, it could be Jawa
It could be
too. so-
Jawa.
No,
No,
George
I'll
Flores
do,
is like pumped
I'll do
right now.
yellow. I'll do yellow hero.
Yellow Hero.
You idiots. It's a Claudite.
All right, Bob. Yellow Hero. I should toss you a cookie here just to be nice, but I'm not. I'm not going to.
You give me Fen
No,
Rao.
no,
What the
No,
hell?
I felt like
Don't be
Fenrau.
nice.
I actually felt like Fenrau wasn't that bad because,
Have you ever seen him on the table?
yeah, when I do draft.
Have you ever seen him on the table?
I played him once because I'm a trash ball, but that's about it. All right, Bob, ready? If you get
Yeah,
this
let's do
one,
it.
I'll be really proud of you because this.
Oh,
All right,
no
two
pressure.
Anakin Skywalker.
two gun, two indirect, focus, shield, dollar blank,
Jim, what's the faction in the
yellow
thing?
hero, two range, two indirect, focus, shield, dollar blank.
Has this person ever seen play?
I've never seen it played.
Well, that's good.
I've never seen this card played ever out in the wild, not one time. It's so bunked.
Like I said, George Floros is taking
It's
notes
so
right now. He's going to come up with.
It's so bunked that I and George and I have never done it.
It's going to be a Fenrau, whatever this is, on Wednesday.
I'm trying to think of a character that hasn't even seen play.
Oh, wow.
Let's go with.
Do you know it, Chris?
Is it the Ezra?
Jim, I think I looked it
And
up.
Bob-
There's no way he's getting this one.
No, go for it, Bob.
Is it the Ezra that's on the yellow speeder tank or the yellow bike?
That's a good guess, but it's actually
Maz?
Maz.
Oh,
Yeah.
The new
gosh.
Maz. It's the new Maz.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten that.
So I'm gonna before Chris wins the game, but I'm gonna dig deep for a second here and ask Chris a bonkers one just to see if this
All right.
it is like how flank.
Guys, the whole time you were busy standing up in Bob's wedding, I was studying the database.
Yeah, just getting ready for a moment like this.
Jim gave you a tip.
Yeah, I was like, bro, I'm going die
Just a
sides.
tip.
Going die sides.
Just the tip on the die side. Yep.
Hold on, let me get to it.
Is it still going to be standard, Jim, or is this going to be a deep cut?
It's still standard, but I think it'll be a deep
All right.
cut. Just
All right.
filibuster for a second.
Dude, honestly, man, I got pretty lucky because like a lot of the ones that you asked Ryan and Bob, I didn't know.
Oh, really?
So
Oh, you're welcome.
yeah, I know.
Alrighty.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. Hey,
All right, Mena. Here we go.
All right.
You got a shot at this.
All right.
All right, this is a
All right.
yellow hero.
Okay.
1 stick, 2 indirect, 1 disrupt, 1 shield, $1 blank.
Yellow hero.
Yeah. One melee, 2 indirect, 1 disrupt, 1 shield, $1 blank.
I want to say like Wicket.
That is correct.
whoa!
Give this kid an
This kid-
award.
this is nuts. He's been studying.
Oh my god.
Give him all the awards.
I was debating Chirpa, but he sees the table a lot, whereas Wicket never.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody play Wicket in the wild.
Nice job.
Oh my
Chris.
god. The melee kind of like pushes you in the direction of the Ewoks,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah,
but I
it
don't know.
pushes you in the direction of Wicket
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like
What are
Yeah.
you talking about?
of the idiots arrays, that was a harder one.
Dark Mystic.
Dark Mystic was. I was like, dude, I've never seen anybody play this. This is gonna be sweet. But nice job, guys. You
I
guys
nailed it,
are
dude.
stepping up your game.
Jim, I
Jim,
got
good
one. For
game,
you.
bro.
Oh,
good
wait,
one.
you got one for me?
I got one for you,
Wow,
Jim.
that's fun because I never get to play in this stuff.
I know. Here we go. You ready?
Qui-Gon?
1 melee.
Wait, you got
Two
one?
melee.
Oh, you gotta tell me.
It's Qui-Gon.
You gotta tell
Oh,
me
sorry.
the
Blue. It's blue.
blue what?
Blue
Oh,
hero.
it's Qui-Gon. Let's go.
One melee.
Mhm.
2 melee.
Mhm.
2 shield. 2 shield. 3 sword. Blank.
Is that Qui-Gon Jinn?
Oh wow, dude, you're so good at
Oh,
this game. Man.
He's
bro,
so good.
I know.
He's only been staring at that card for 2 years.
I know that dice
Left
like
that
it's
card
like.
next to his bed for many nights.
I know my dice.
Dude, guys, speaking of Qui-Gon real quick, I forgot to mention there's been a couple podcasts that did a lot of good rundowns about decreasing point costs on players, on characters. So I know the Golden Dice did a podcast a couple weeks ago breaking down the whole standard card pool, and the Garbage Will Do from the UK, they did a big episode about just talking about, instead of nerfing just the top tier, just lowering down a whole bunch of point costs for all the scrubs. So go
Well,
check
there
that
you go.
out.
There's our preview for episode 10 here, fellas.
Yeah.
First ever.
I could give you a big list.
Well, write it down and save it for a couple of weeks. But until that time, this has been Ryan, Chris, Bob, and Jim with the Loth-Wolf Pack. Thank you all for listening. If you guys like our stuff, delve into our comment section, focus, fire that like button, and then subscribe to our channel for amazing Destiny content. Again, thank you all for listening. We would love to hear from you guys on what you think. But until next time, Loth-Wolf Pack out.